breathe down your neck. That is the block party.
Hudson finishes off Kentucky.
Purdue gets to celebrate. They take down number 3.
And the Boilers have done it. They advance to the Sweet 16 for the 5th time.
Welcome back to the Dig City Podcast, brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. I'm Corey Palm. He's head coach Dave Shondell. And, Coach, congratulations on 2 NCAA tournament wins. Very successful week last week, and you're a third of the way there.
That's right. It's a battle for sure, and interesting things last weekend when Loyola upsets BYU. Well, we thought it was an upset.
Yeah.
Anybody that watched it could tell it wasn't an upset. That Loyola is just a better team, and I think we beat Western Michigan, who had won a lot of matches in a row coming in and had been really controlling the Mid-American Conference, and we knew that was going to be a great match, and we played well, and we were down in 2 of those sets late and found a way in traditional Boilermaker style to come back and win those late and advance to the second round of the NCAA tournament. And I thought one of the good things for us was our players watched Loyola put on that show, put on an absolute clinic in their win against BYU. So it was helpful that we were ready for that. And we matched their intensity, we matched their defense, we had maybe a little more talent, and then as the match went on, they wore down a little bit, and we persevered and made it look maybe easier than it really was down the stretch. But I just think Western Michigan and Loyola need to be congratulated for just fantastic seasons. They dominated their conferences, especially in the second half. I think both of them had won maybe 12 or 13 in a row, and Loyola had won like 37 of the last 39 sets that they played before we ran into them.
Yeah.
So they were playing at a very high level, and we knew that we had to step up, and we did, and I give our players a lot of credit for doing that they knew it was their time to make a stand, and we played at a really high level, I thought, in both those matches.
Definitely. Like you said, down in 2 different sets against Western Michigan, and clawed back. That is
Trademark.
The trademark of this team, absolutely. The what this team has been doing all season long, and for those of us who've been watching a lot of the matches this season, not a surprise at all. But when you're on the sidelines, and I got to think that with 4 months of evidence, it gives you even more confidence to just keep everything moving in the same direction. Things will turn around.
Yeah, it's never a comfortable feeling to fall behind, especially at tournament time.
Yeah.
But it does, allow you to recognize the fact that we've come back before, and we've got some great competitors. And so it was nice to get to the regional round again. And there's nothing easy about it. And you look at some of the teams that did not make it. One of the things, the Big 12 Conference came in highly touted. They had, I think, 4 teams seeded in the top 16, all playing at home, and all lost.
Yep.
They had some others that lost that were not at home, as well, but BYU being one of those that came here and was upset. But not a good NCAA tournament for the Big 12. And, again, that is all dictated by what thing? RPI.
Right.
And again, for the most part, the RPI might be the best single metric they can come up with. I'm not going to argue that, but there has to be some other factors, I think, involved in that. And there's always going to be upsets, whether it's the NCAA basketball tournament, NCAA volleyball tournament. Those things are going to happen. But I felt all along that the Big 12 was a little bit overvalued, watching teams play on TV, looking at scores and all those things. But nonetheless, we're where we need to be right now. Our regional, I think, is very strong. First game is going to be, Florida taking on Stanford. Florida is a team that had a tough year. They had some injuries early on. They've gotten all their people back. They may have the single best player in the country playing for them, a kid named Martin. That's just a great sophomore, 6'5", plays all 6 rotations, hits the crap out of the ball. She's playing really well. They're a good team.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to try to take on Stanford. in the first match. Stanford's been in the top 5 or 6 all season. Very solid, balanced team with experienced players. And then in the second match that begins at 9:30 on Thursday night will be ourselves in Louisville. And again, I think that's an interesting matchup because there are a lot of similarities in those two teams that will make that fun to watch, I think, for the fans.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll get pretty heavy into that Louisville Scout. One of the Big 12 teams you were talking about that got upset was Kansas, losing to Florida at home.
Right.
In that second round, that was a 15-13 final.
Yeah, really similar to the loss they had a year ago to Penn State.
Yep.
At the same time. So 2 years in a row, Ray Bouchard's team that's been really, really good, but not real physical, okay? And I think the lack of physicality in that match showed that from a blocking standpoint, they had a hard time handling Martin. There's 2 Martins on that team,
Yep.
a right side player and a left side player. And the block that Martin and Roth and another kid, Augusta, two middles are both freshmen. They're big and physical. And so only way in a couple of rotations that Kansas could score was running the slide. Well, if you don't pass the ball well enough, you can't run the slide. And down the stretch, they were not able to do that, and they were relying on a smallish left side hitter who's pretty good, but up against a pretty good wall of blockers, and that kind of was the difference down the stretch for a Kansas team that I really like their staff and I like their players, but they were a little undersized. And I think that was a big difference in that match, the physicality of Florida taking advantage of that in certain rotations. A
layperson here, a fan of the sport, not a student of the sport like yourself, you hear physicality and you think of more physical sports like basketball or football, hockey.
Yeah.
When you say physical, you're talking size and strength, being able to win the duels at the net, things of that nature, or what are you referring to?
No, yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. You look at Wisconsin, who I have said all along I think is going to be a team that will have success in the NCAA tournament, and even though Georgia Tech almost bit them in the tail in the second round, they advanced, and now it gets even tougher. I think they got Texas, and if they beat Texas, probably Nebraska.
They've got A&M and then Nebraska.
Oh, A&M.
Yep.
A&M. Okay,
Yep.
That's right. And then they've got to beat Nebraska, but Wisconsin's a team that's very physical.
Okay.
They're big. They're hard to hit around. They can hit over the top of you. You don't hit through them very often. And for example, the 2 teams that we beat were not big physical teams.
Right, gotcha.
Loyola and Western Michigan, of course, they're mid-major programs, so it's hard to get those kind of players there. But some programs can have those. I mean, Lourdes Myers is a big physical player. Okay, Raven Colvin, not as tall, but I would put her in the physical category because she's so
physical.
athletic.
Yeah.
And I think most people would look at us and say we're probably one of the 10 or 12 most physical teams in the country, but we'll get more physical, I think, as our younger people get stronger as well.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for clearing that up. Those are fun talking points to get into the nitty gritty. That match against Loyola, the second round. I know when you're going into scout a tournament, you've got 3 potential opponents, 1 definite opponent, 2 potential opponents. Every team handles scout a little differently. Do you spend more resources on the higher seed anticipating that? Do you try and cover them both equally? How much were you caught off guard by the Loyola and the quick turnaround?
Well, luckily we have enough staff that we can cover them all equally well. Personally, I was looking more at BYU because I was dumb enough to think that they were going to win.
Right.
My 2 younger staff members, I'll give them credit, Ben and Michael, both predicted Loyola to win that match. John Klanick and I both went the other direction, just because I guess we feel like we've seen enough that we respected BYU to a point that they'd come in here and win. They've been a tremendous program for a long, long time, but yet when it came right down to it, there was no question who the better team was. Loyola just spanked them 3 straight sets.
They did.
And they were in control the entire way. And BYU just looked like they were a little young, a little green in some areas, and not playing with a lot of confidence coming into this tournament, even though they had just gone on the road and beaten Kansas and Kansas State.
Right.
And that was what led me to believe, well, they're playing pretty well right now. It just went into those two programs and won. But yet, on the other hand, Loyola was a hotter team and just put on a show. There's so much fun to watch in that match.
They were, and they had success in the gym. They love coming to Holloway, no doubt about it. But there was, like you said, it was a little bit. The first two sets were close Friday night in the second round against Loyola. The third set, you could tell they ran out of steam, and you guys had a pretty firm grip on that match early on in the third set. That said, your defense, the scrappiness on your side of the net was as good as I've seen this season. There were so many points, including the SportsCenter Top 10 number one play of the day.
Yeah, that was nice to see.
Ali Hornung's uppercut save that ended up winning a key point in the second set. Just the tenacity of your defense Friday night was as good as I've seen all season.
Yeah, we've not had anybody play better libero than Ali Hornung.
That's a statement right there, yeah.
And I'm not taking anything away from some of the great liberos we've had, but none have been better than the way she's playing right now, defensively. And then her passing in the last 2 or 3 weeks has just gone to a completely different level. Her serving is going from serving a rather cupcake-type serve to where she's serving, aspirin tablets across the net. And so it's been a delight to see what she has done, the difference that she has made this season on our team. And I can't tell you how important that it has been for us. But she isn't the only person that plays defense.
Right.
We're putting a lot of great defenders on the floor. And our two middle back players, maybe two of our better athletes on the team, Chloe Chacoin, Eva Hudson. A lot of left side hitters don't even play in the back row.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Ours play it extremely well. And when they're locked in, they're unbelievable. And then Ryan McAleer on the right side, digging right back, has been terrific in the last half of the season, really the last 3/4 of the season. She's been really good. Our most improved defender, Taylor Anderson, who wasn't sure exactly what she was supposed to do when she was in the back row defensively. When she got here, has become a really good back row defender. She's so long, really long arms, really anticipates well. So there's not a weak link in the back row. And when we were playing Penn State and Kansas and Creighton about a third of the way through the season, we weren't very good defensively. We were, and we talked about this to the end, okay, that we were not very good during that stretch.
Yep.
Much different team right now. And we've had some really good defensive teams at Purdue, and you've been here to watch a lot of them. None have played as well as this team's playing defense right now. And if we can get a couple more things ironed out in our block, it's going to make it even better. And we feel like we've got time this week to do that. We're going to watch tape today with some of our blockers. We're going to work on some things tonight in practice. We think we can get better. Now, keep in mind, we had 23 blocks in 6 sets this past weekend against, NCAA tournament teams.
Right.
23 blocks is a lot of blocks in 3 sets.
It is.
We can do better. And we're going to need to when we play Louisville on Thursday.
Eva Hudson was extremely efficient. She's on a heater right now. Before we talk about her, the number that jumped off the page for me most last week was in 3 sets, Chloe Chacoin had 19 digs in round 1. That is unbelievable production.
Yeah.
From an offensive player.
Yeah, the issue there is that I watch her every day. So when I see her not make the first team all Big Ten, I wonder, what are people looking at? What are they missing? She's literally changed our program. Now, she's got a lot of good players by her side, okay? I mean, some great players. Eva Hudson's as good as anybody in the country. All right, I think we both know that. Ravens had a rock star season. We got a lot of good players all across the board, okay? But for 6 rotations, she gives you everything you possibly could. Our best passer right now. Her numbers are ridiculous, how she's passing the ball. Defensively, 19 digs in 3 sets. She's all over the place. Plays with as much intensity as anybody you could ever imagine, okay? Some people, even her own teammates, think she's a little crazy sometimes, okay, because of how hard she plays and how much she pours into this particular game and to our program. But she hits. Her blocking is no longer a problem. I mean, she blocked 2 or 3 balls in the last match of the tournament, okay, one-on-one, okay, against slide hitters or right side hitters. And because she's worked at it so hard, she does not want to be bad at anything.
Right.
She's one of those players she's a perfectionist. And so she's going to really, really work. And she spent more time in the gym in 2 years than any other person in our program in 2 years. And that spread like wildfire across our program. So people that don't put her on the first team, and I get and I said this last week, a lot of great players.
Yep.
Nobody on there that was not deserving to be on there, okay? But to not have Chloe Chacoin on the first team is a real slap in the face, not just of her, but I think of our entire team. Because that is who she is. She is a big part of who we are, and just an incredible player. Incredible player.
Well, and she came in with a reputation for being an incredible player, a top recruit,
Oh,
and
yeah.
had success at every level, top-level success across the board for years
Right.
before she even got here. And those types of players, a lot of times, will say, I am good at what I'm good at, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And for a player like Chloe, it would have been forgiven if she would have said, I don't want to become one of the best defenders in America because I want to be the best outside hitter. She's not that.
She's a one-of-a-kind
Yeah.
individual. Okay? I mean, and again, we've got maybe 3 or 4 of those on our team right now, but she is one of a kind, and nothing's going to stop her. And if something does stop her, she's going to sweat it out for however long it takes, and she's going to be angry, and she's going to be hard to look at, and she's not going to be friendly until she gets it right, okay? And sometimes that, you walk in the gym and you're trying to get her to just relax a little bit, but she's not going to. She's going to get it right, and just an amazing human being. And, like I mentioned, we've got several of them, which is what makes this team go. But again, But you guys asked me the question about Diggs, and I kind of went crazy on it.
That's okay.
But she is the best defensive left side hitter in America, in my opinion. Just makes a ton of plays.
Another one of those players, another one of those will not accept failure to a large degree, pretty much across the board, is Eva Hudson. She's playing as well as anybody in America right now. Eva, 41 kills in 6 sets, hitting right around 500. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
She is really dialed in at the moment.
Yeah, she played with a lot of purpose. Always does, but raised her level, I thought, a little bit in the tournament. One of the things you didn't mention was she had the 41 kills and she had only 3 errors. So she had, how many total swings, do you know?
It's going to take a minute.
Approximately 70-some swings, most likely.
I know
maybe
she had
80.
30. She had 32 Friday night.
And only makes 3 hitting errors.
Unreal.
So that just tells you what kind of a zone that she's in. And believe it or not, I think she can play better, and I think she will play better. I think she can be more dynamic. I think she can be faster on the ball. But I'm asking an awful lot. Okay, but that's what we do here. We ask an awful lot out of our players to be the very, very best they can be, and we want them to be better this week than they were last week. And they know that when they're playing Louisville and possibly Stanford or Florida, they're going to have to be a little bit better than when they played Western Michigan and when they played Loyola. That's the way the tournament works. Right. It just gets tougher and tougher each match that you play. So I'm excited about both those guys, the entire team, on how they're going to play. And if last night's practice was any indication, then I think we're off to a good start this week.
Love hearing that. 76 total swings for those 3 errors. And she played at an unbelievably high level in round 1 and then raised her attack percentage by around 100 points for round 2. So she also added 5 blocks in round 1, 7 digs against Western Michigan. Just that all-around player who's making, like I said, as good as anybody in the country. And if she's making as good a case for first-team All-America and beyond as anybody I've seen.
Eva's playing really, really well, but has a lot that she can still do and has a lot to prove.
Can't wait to see that. We're going to take a break real quick. We're going to come back and do a deep dive on the next opponent, Louisville. Stick with us. The Dig City podcast is brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. At Franciscan, we are inspiring health. Now back to the show. All right, Coach, next up on the docket is Louisville. The Cardinals are a program you're familiar with. You've played them quite a bit over the years. One thing we know for sure about them, they got by the skin of their teeth on Saturday night, a 22-25 set win over Northern Iowa on their home boards. One of the classic matches, one of the best matches in all of college volleyball this season. The Panthers really came to play, and Louisville was just that much better. What have you learned so far about your next opponent?
Well, first of all, shout out to Bobby Peterson and UNI for just an unbelievable performance in that match. Everyone in the world was watching, volleyball world anyway, and UNI just played an unbelievable match. Just swung at every ball from their toenails. I mean, they just went after everything like there was no tomorrow. And we're in a position to win the match, and it just didn't happen. It just wasn't in the cards for some reason. I guess it was in the Cardinals. But Bobby Peterson is one of the class acts in the entire country in the world of coaching. And it would have been great for her and for those players that played so hard. Again, and I told our team this last night, so many of the players on Northern Iowa or Loyola of Chicago or Western Michigan didn't have offers to play at Louisville or Purdue, okay? But here they go out and they show they're more than capable of playing the game the way it's supposed to be played at an unbelievably high level. And, you care for those people. If you're in this sport and you're a coach, you really care for those people. But UNI was just nearly flawless for most of that match. And they just couldn't close the door. But Louisville, on the other hand, is a program that really has been one of the top 5 or 6 programs in the country over the last 4 seasons. Coach Busboom Kelly has just done a tremendous job. Her staff is really good as well, and they've done a fantastic job of getting players to Louisville and developing those players. It's a good coaching staff down there, and they've been in the top 4 all season, I think, ranked in the top 4, and they got, I think, the 4th overall seed, despite having a tough week going into it. They had Pittsburgh at home, and Pittsburgh's number 1 in the country, a really, really talented team. They lose to them, and then they go to Stanford kind of thinking, we better win this one or we're not going to host.
Right.
And yet they did lose, and in 4 close sets to a good Stanford team, very talented team. But yet they were fortunate they still hosted. And so we're going to play them not at the Yum Center, but at
Freedom Hall,
which is where the Kentucky Colonels used to play.
Very
in
historic,
ABA, Dan Issel and company, okay? And also where they used to have the Indiana-Kentucky basketball all-star games were down there. And I've gone down to watch an all-star game there before. And plus, all of the big club tournaments that are played in Louisville are played in that same fairground area. Okay. So a lot of people that are in the volleyball world are very familiar with that landscape down there. So that's where we will play. And the funny thing about that is, you think that Louisville's got this home court advantage because they're hosting the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th potential match of the NCAA tournament. Well, they've not played a match there. They've not played a match at Freedom Hall all season. Okay, so I think if you're going to play Louisville, you might as well play it someplace where you've played as many matches as they have.
No doubt.
And so, it's not going to be quite as bright and shiny as the Yum Center, but they're going to have a volleyball floor, and I think we're going to have a lot of Boilermaker fans. And that's the real key is, can we get down there and make some noise? And I said this I think on the press conference after the match. I follow Matt Painter's team down there, to the regional round. Very exciting regional round. Obviously, Tennessee and Virginia were the foes for Carson Edwards and company when we went down there. And wow, what an event that was. Purdue took over Louisville. Literally took over Louisville. Now, Louisville wasn't in the event, okay?
Right.
But Purdue flat took over the town. And, we need to have something similar to that, I think, down there is as many Purdue fans that can get down there, make it happen. If you're from the southern part of the state or you're from the area of Louisville, help us out because I think every fan that gets there will make a difference.
I think so too. Capacity is around 18,000, and the historic nature of Freedom Hall, we'll get into that right at the end of the show, is pretty awesome. Just a quick Google search of that place.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. But another thing, Eva Hudson did a live interview on the Big Ten Network earlier this morning. We're taping this on Monday, and she was on Big Ten Live. She pointed out, not just like you said, Purdue fans know how to travel to Louisville. Purdue fans know how to travel, period. She said, there was a huge group out in Phoenix. There was a huge group that knows how to mobilize and follow great Purdue teams, and this is another chance to make a difference.
And the other thing I'd like to say, Corey, is women's sports. I mean, it doesn't have to be football. It doesn't have to be men's basketball, okay? Women's sports, they're for real. And we packed Mackey Arena with 15,000 people on back-to-back Saturdays without spending a dime on marketing, okay? And it's fun. It's exciting. This team is Purdue. The people that really understand Purdue University, and I've learned to know who they are over the course of time, is all about toughness, competing, blue-collar workers, just all those things. Did I say that right? Blue collar or white collar?
Blue collar.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
But that's who this team is. I mean, they just work their tail off every day, and they compete. And we may not have the biggest and tallest and maybe even the most athletic team in the country, but nobody's going to play harder. Louisville plays hard, but they cannot play harder than us on that particular night. So, again, I mean, let's give women's sports a little bit of credit, and let's get out and let's support this team and be a difference maker in Louisville on Thursday night.
Absolutely. I know the whole Harlan clan will be there for sure. They're from just across the river.
Okay. Absolutely great.
In New Albany. You mentioned that this team is Purdue. It's also very Indiana. There's so many Indiana kids on your roster, and part of it speaks to the talent of high school volleyball and club volleyball in the state of Indiana. But part of it is your homegrown talent. You go to Purdue. This is where you want to play. This is where you want to build, to continue to build that legacy.
Well, it's important that you get the best players out of your state, especially if your state is a really good volleyball state. No different than Matt Painter or Katie Gerald's. You have to get those players that are good. Matt's done a great job of that, as you know. Katie's working really hard at making the same thing happen. And we've done a great job. I mean, we've been very fortunate that we've gotten all those great players, including Addie Tyndall, who's coming in next year out of Homestead. Just a phenomenal player in this state. But, we got a lot of great players from Indiana. And one of them's from the southern part of the state, Allie Horning. I think we've already talked about Allie a little bit, okay? She's from Providence High School, and which is right across the river. So, I know we'll get some help there, but it's just something I think is important at this point in time that people, start looking at this women's sports as if they're for real. And I think that we've proven that athletically, this group is pretty special.
What is if you had to dial down to the one or two keys to watch for Thursday night to be successful against the Cardinals?
They run a 6-2 offense.
Okay.
And for a lot of volleyball people understand that means that they will always have 3 hitters in the front row, and they'll use 2 different setters. One will go across the back row. When she's done, another one comes in. So the setters are always in the back row, and they got 3 big physical players in the front row, and they do have some size and talent in the front row. And so you're always looking at 3 hitters. So your block and defense needs to be very well prepared to contain 3 hitters in the front row, and occasionally somebody flying out of the back row because they've got a couple of really good athletes that play 6 rotations, similar to what we do.
Okay.
And they'll set those players from the back row as well. So I think from a defensive standpoint, just getting back, we've played a lot of teams that ran 6-2s this year. Wisconsin was one of those, okay? And so, you have to be prepared for that type of an offense. I think our continued development in our serving We served extremely well this past weekend.
Yeah.
It's been on the uptick really since about halfway through the season. A lot of players have redesigned their serves to get stronger, to get better. And so I think that's something else that's going to be really, really important, is taking them out of system, not allowing them to run what they want to run. And the rest of it's on ourselves, basically, our blocking. We have to be really good blocking. When you can't get tooled, you can't put up soft hands, you got to get to the right spot. And, we'll continue to work on that. And, those are some of the things I think that are going to be really, really important. And our outside hitters have to come to play. All of our people have to come to play. But I think when the going gets tough are going to get going, and that's who we are.
That's awesome. Any final thoughts on that before I give you the Freedom Hall trivia?
No, I think we've
run that one
digested
dry
that pretty well. Yeah.
All right. Well, NCAA volleyball, third and fourth round, going to be at Freedom Hall. That's the next great event at that place, but it's probably not the greatest event that place has ever seen. This is a place that throughout the years has hosted Elvis Presley, Led Zeppelin, The Doors. Who else we got here? The Grateful Dead, Kiss.
Well, for a long time, it was the venue.
It was
in
the
Louisville.
place to go.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's first career professional fight.
Great.
Of course, he's a Louisville guy.
Yeah.
Was in Freedom Hall.
Sure.
So, there's so much cool history in this building.
It does mention the ABA team in there.
It does,
Kentucky
absolutely.
Colonels,
Yep,
for sure.
the Colonels. Yeah. And
Does it mention
very
the All-Star
successful.
games, the Indiana,
Kentucky and
high school All-Star games? Those were big deals down there, but maybe they didn't make the list.
Maybe didn't make the list. It's probably in here somewhere. I'm not going to read the entire Wikipedia page. I just had to get in the. Anytime you can mention Elvis Presley and Muhammad Ali in the same context as Purdue volleyball, you do it.
Yeah.
And so there we go. Good luck in adding just a little bit more history to this awesome venue.
I can guarantee you there's going to be some of the best volleyball ever played there this weekend, because there's 4 really good teams coming in there. And we talked a little bit about Florida and Stanford, but they're both playing really, really well. Florida had a lot of injuries early, but they've got some things figured out. And Stanford and Louisville have been in the top 5 or 6 all season. We've been trying to crash the party. We're going to try to crash it really hard on Thursday night.
Yep, absolutely. Good luck against the Cardinals and for whatever may happen after.
Okay, boiler up. See you guys in Louisville.